Hello, Kansas City and wonderful teachers out there. I am excited to announce the start of a new idea of broadcasting and capturing some of the talented skill sets that we witness when we go to classrooms. My name is Chris Odom. I am the English coordinator at Kansas City Public Schools. You may have seen some other interviews I've done in the past with students and graduates of our district. And it kind of led to me developing this idea. I'm joined today by Chelsea Clipperton, and I had a chance to come visit her class. And she's going to tell us a little bit today, after I make known what I observed, about how maybe some of that came to be. The hope that we would spread around some of these true stories might be chances for you to see that it's possible and to feel good about it, but it's also just to borrow skills from each other. We all do things differently, and some of us do things more, what we're used to doing, and some of us would kind of step out of our comfort zone and try some new things. So, what I will say is, I visited your sixth grade classroom, and we did come around with even more pressure. We brought the study sync representative, so she and I had a chance to confer after we met and watched your class for a little while, and we were just astounded by the way it was so self-led. We could tell in a lot of ways that you had prepared lessons on purpose that would not be teacher-centered and that would not be dominated by teacher talk, but that would really provide a lot of immediate understanding of what the task was. And then, boy, I tell you, your groups just went to it. There was like a hustle about it. Everybody went to their favorite place to sit or even stand kind of in the corner. People got their supplies out. There was like a leader in each team, I think, or maybe not an official one, but I sat and was just kind of awestruck that in this elementary school, we had such level of independent learning going on. And I even mentioned it to one of your girls, and she was like, "What, you don't think we can do this?" I was like, "Excuse me. Yes, I do. Don't let me put that on." I just told her, I don't know that I see this all the time in sixth grade settings, who are even in buildings that are not really, I guess, at the next stage of their life yet. So Miss Clipperton's here today, and I would like her to unwind that. Like, I'm going to guess it didn't just start out that way.
No, no.
All right.
So from day one, I think working in groups is so important. So day one, where a lot of it usually is teacher centered, we get in groups and we talk about, what do we want our classroom to look like? What does it sound like? So from the very first moment that they step foot in my room, we're already working in groups. And let me tell you, it looks nothing like what you saw. We are arguing and we are not getting along, and one person wants to do everything. And so little by little, we talk about, what does it look like to be a good partner? What does it look like to be a leader? What does it look like to maybe not be the person leading a group every single time?
Mm.
And that's kind of what you saw. We didn't have official leaders. Sometimes we do have official leaders in some groups, depending on what the activity is. But that you were just able to see some of the leadership abilities that some of my students really just, they come out and they're like, okay, let's go. Um,
Yeah.
we
Even the seating, like sit at the kidney table yourself, and the one student who kind of decided to be in the middle there and like enjoyed his role, and it was like, this is neat. I can tell this doesn't just happen today.
No, definitely not. So we talk a lot about positive language and we talk about sentence frame. So it's okay to disagree. What does that look like and sound like respectfully? So they don't always agree, which we don't expect everyone to always agree, but they know in our classroom, I disagree because, or I appreciate your thinking, but so they can express themselves and tell someone, I think you're wrong, but I can still respect you.
That's fantastic. And in older classes, we'd call that, I guess, like civil discourse, or
Yeah, uh-huh.
right? Yeah, that's really fantastic. So, what what do you think? You've gradually, like, but even you said like from the start, just kind of
Mhm.
the belief. Tell me a little bit about that, because I think one of the things that makes it happen is partially you. You have the belief that it will work.
Yes.
Is that part of it?
Yeah, I tell them all the time that, I have very high expectations for you, and if I were to ever start lowering my expectation, that's when you should be worried. So I go into it and I'm like, "Oh, you can do this. It might be difficult, but you can do it." We might not get it right the first time, the second time, or even the 10th time, but eventually you're going to do it and you're going to get it right. And so when I set those expectations for my students, I really see them rise to the occasion because they're like, oh, she thinks I can do it. Okay.
Yeah. And so tell me, how does that translate when you're talking about the overall rigor of the day or the energy that they're putting toward actually learning? Do you feel like you're getting to a point where it's more efficient and we're actually spending more time on what we're supposed to be doing?
Yes. So the beginning of the year, like I said, everything is gradual. I wish that we could, start day one and be this amazing class, but it's very gradual. But by continuing I give my expectation every time we do something. So they know what I expect from them every single time. My expectation is XYZ. And then they can tell you, well, Miss Clipperton wants blah, blah, blah. And they'll put it in their own words and they'll tell their neighbors. And now it's to the point where they're holding each other accountable. It's not always coming from me anymore. Well, remember, Miss Clipperton said, or I know you can do it. It's okay. I always tell them we can do hard things.
Mm-hmm.
And so now I hear them telling themselves, I can do hard things. It's okay. Or telling their neighbor, it's okay. You can do hard things. And so we're spending less time constantly like, it's okay. You're fine. It's just a quick, I can do hard things and we're moving on.
That's fantastic. Yeah, I could sense that, and I wasn't even there very long, but I could tell that the pride of doing well in there, and that like that was part of the puzzle, and really exciting to hear and see. It did not feel like the first days, and so that's really exciting. I remember that from my class too. Is that come back and see me more in third quarter, and this will even be more cool. And then how you basically start that over every year with a new group of people. And so I want to, for one of the teachers who might be wondering, well, that's all said and great that it worked. Um, what do you do planning wise? Like, how does this affect the way you plan daily instruction?
I make sure, well, I can't say every day, but almost every day, probably 90% of the time that I have an opportunity for them to work either in partners or in groups. And again, it's very heavy on my expectations. We talk about what it looks like to disagree, what it looks like to agree before they work in partners almost every single time. And then sometimes I assign them partners. Sometimes we draw random cards or they get to choose partners because I think it's really important. I can work really well with my best friend. That's great. But I also need to be able to work with the student who maybe we don't get along as well. And so we talk about all the time how we are a family and, brothers and sisters fight, but at the end of the day, we're going to work together to get what needs to be done. And we're going to do it correctly and respectfully.
Mm-hmm. That's fantastic. So where do you think this knowledge of yours came from? Do you think it's something you read or something you learned about, or do you think it mainly came from trial and error and finding out how to get kids more engaged? Or where do you think this knowledge base came from?
I think trial and error for sure, but I've also had amazing mentors over my last 6 years teaching. So I've been able to see certain things and I'm like, ooh, I like that. So I'll take one thing from someone and then I'll see something else and I'm like, ooh, I like that. And so I'll take something else from someone and then I just kind of morph it into what works best for me and what works best for my students at that time. So what's working now for my group of students right now probably wouldn't have worked for my group of students last year. And it might not work for my group of students next year, but it's just getting to know your kids and building those relationships, I think is the number one most important thing, because then I can tweak it. I can say, okay, maybe we're not going to do 4 in a group yet because we're not ready, but we can do partner work.
Mm-hmm. That's fantastic. And your confidence, I guess, is also part of it in knowing that when I start with a group, I know where we start, and I know that that's not where we're going to be at the end of the year. And I think that probably, as far as small groups goes, is hard to develop without practice and continuing to do it when it feels iffy at the beginning. Yeah. So I thank you for being here and talking to our teachers a little bit today about your pursuit of how making small groups in your classroom really raises engagement levels. And let's finish with one piece of advice you might give to anyone trying small groups, for the first couple times, or they've tried it and hung it up for a while and they want to bring it back. What do you think would be one suggestion you could give a teacher out there thinking about it for another round?
Don't be afraid to fail. Let go. I know as teachers, it's really easy to be like, I'm in control. I want to make sure it goes in a very specific order. I know that's me as a person, but letting go of some of that control and your students will surprise you. And then just being consistent. It doesn't work the first 5 times, but you never know, that sixth time you might be like, "Ooh, who are these kids?" And so just being consistent and letting go of some of that control.
Fantastic. And then letting them know that you noticed growth.
Yes.
Yeah, when you make that light bulb moment. And I always love those. I told them, guys, you can't choose to have goosebumps, but I just got some,
Yes.
like something like that. And it would just be pretty cool for all of us that's a milestone. And that I hope to be able to point out more things like that makes us all feel good. But let's keep it up. So
Yes. I'm very extra. And my kids are always like, we get it, Miss Clipperton. You're proud. Okay.
well, don't hide it when it's real, right? So
Exactly.
thank you so much, Miss Clipperton. And those listening, there'll be more shows like this one coming up. Look for more of these on our district website. And thanks for taking the time to talk to us today.
Thank you.
All right, let me stop recording.